I used to be super extreme in my approach to dieting. I had this mental checklist of so-called good foods and so-called bad foods, and whenever I saw someone eating these so-called bad foods, I felt the impulse to shame them for their bad behavior, much like you would shame a child for, you know, doing something that they weren't supposed to do.
Don't you ever backtalk me, dude. Are you kidding me? You're sitting here with your back to the camera like this. You wanna fucking dodge this shit? I fucking pay your goddamn salary.
But occasionally, you know what I'm saying, I found myself indulging in these same bad foods. Say I would eat a cookie, for example, and afterwards I would just feel like absolute shit because it sort of broke this illusion that I'm not actually a god yet, because I was putting myself on this sort of pedestal and looking down on people for being lesser than me because they weren't held to the same standard, basically. But afterwards, I would mentally whip myself into repentance for my sins with my negative self-talk, and then I would go on to do the same towards others.
What the hell are you with that student for?
So it was just this very negative cycle where I would feel like a superior god when I was eating these so-called good foods, and then when I occasionally indulged in these bad foods, I would feel like an absolute worthless piece of dog shit. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to eat my cake and have it too without feeling so terrible about myself. So I decided to add in a cheat day. I figured that maybe I was being a bit too extreme in my approach, and you know, if I just had one day where I took my foot off the gas for a second, that would alleviate some of the stress, right?
I walk around like that.
But what I found was that I basically, you know, started fantasizing about all these foods that I had deprived myself of for the week prior. And so once that cheat day arrived, I would go absolutely insane and start sucking everything up like a vacuum cleaner. And so by the time the day was over, I'd basically erased an entire week's worth of progress, you know, an entire week's worth of calorie deficit in the span of like 16 fucking hours. And so obviously after that, you know, I felt like absolute shit because of my lack of discipline and what a worthless human being I was. And then I'll go on to rationalize the situation thinking, well, since I already fucked the week up, like tomorrow I might as well order some fucking Domino's. Maybe I'll go to Taco Bell and get a fucking Baja Blast or some shit, and then I'll just carry on this negative momentum until I spiraled myself down into the depths of hell.
Fuck! Does anyone else have to suck this hard for a damn milkshake?
I was sick and tired of bringing myself down as well as those around me with all of this negative self-talk. And I knew that if I continued down this path that I would start becoming more and more isolated because no one wants to be around a negative little hoe who thinks he's superior to people just because they eat a little treat every now and then. You know, I was determined to find another way, and that's when I started talking to Goggins. Goggins doesn't fear failure, he welcomes it. He knows that temporary failure is just one step in the process towards long-lasting success. And so when he sets out to do something, he doesn't ask himself, what if I fail? But instead he tells himself, I will fail as many times as is necessary. But it wasn't always this way. When Goggins was younger, he was taught to fear failure. He was held to an extremely high standard, and any sort of deviation from that standard was met with severe punishment. He found that the more he tried to shy away from making mistakes, the more stationary he became, and the less he grew. He became so caught up in the idea of failure that he had forgotten that his true purpose was to be a success. And so instead of honing his energy and focus upon what he desired most, what actually came to pass was what his mind had been so engrossed in: his utter and complete failure. Instead of simply accepting his imperfect nature and settling for excellence, he fell into the trap of overanalysis, which can only lead to paralysis. So it's got me thinking, what if I've been trying to hold myself to an impossible standard? You know, like, what if my approach wasn't working because it didn't allow for any deviations or have any flexibility? What if the problem wasn't that I wasn't being disciplined enough, but rather that I was trying to be perfect instead of excellent? I realized that it wasn't the food itself, but rather my mindset regarding the food that was holding me back. As long as I kept seeing certain foods as good and others as bad, I would, you know, inevitably feel like shit as I, you know, eventually slipped up. And so what if instead of placing certain labels on food, I just started viewing food as food? And so this is when I came across flexible dieting, the philosophy that you should eat, you know, whole foods 80% of the time, and then 20% of your diet can consist of more processed foods, shit like pizza, fries, donuts, all that bullshit. No food is inherently, you know, good or evil, but it's rather what you do with that food that counts. For example, you could eat a single slice of pecan pie right now, but it's not going to make you obese any more than eating a single plate of salad is going to make you skinny. It's what you do over the long term that's going to, compound into actual results. And so if you can get yourself to eat well 80% of the time, 100% of the week, imagine what kind of results you could produce over the long run. And so once I made the switch from praising certain foods and demonizing other foods to, just viewing food as food and understanding that certain foods are gonna help me, get closer towards my goals, whereas other foods are gonna hinder me, I was finally able to build a lifestyle that makes it, possible for me to even go as far as to stop tracking my calories if I really wanted to. And some days, if I really feel like it, I'll eat a motherfucking chocolate chip cookie, bitch. Who's gonna stop me? Because I don't view foods as good or bad anymore. But the greatest benefit of all has really just been the freedom that I've gained around food. Whereas before, when I used to obsess about what I can eat and what I can't eat, it made me want those bad foods even more because I didn't allow myself to have them. But now, since I don't view foods as good or bad, I don't really feel any temptation towards eating these so-called bad foods because I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want. Alright guys, so I hope you liked that video. Drop a like, comment, subscribe. If you're ready to jump on your own health journey, feel free to download my free Fasting Sage cookbook where I give you, 10 lit recipes that are going to change your life. Download that shit right fucking now. It's free. If you don't, I'm gonna find your IP address and bitch slap the fuck out of you. Yeah, I hope you guys like that video. As always, keep dreaming while you're awake. I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.
You ever wonder what it feels like when dreams bleed into real life? Seen scenes from TV get realized. Palm trees, a soft breeze, and chilled ice till tides wash away our problems in the spilled wine.